In Chapter 1, Silla Nordvig experiences a harrowing day in Skarstad marked by superstition, ritual violence, and ominous signs. Believing in omens, she notes three misfortunes: a surprise tax, an injury, and the tolling of execution bells. Along with Jarl Gunnel's household, Silla is marched to the village square where accused magic users are condemned. She receives an obsidian stone for the stoning ritual and witnesses the brutal execution of three women. During the event, she sees a strange little blonde girl and experiences hallucinations, including memories of her mother. An eclipse darkens the sky, and Tolvik, a kind stable hand, denounces the executions. He's seized by Clarenar warriors and gruesomely mutilated, becoming another sacrifice to Ursur. Silla, traumatized but outwardly composed, follows the others home in a daze. As she reflects on the eclipse and Tolvik's fate, she interprets them as a sign. It is time to leave Skarstad before more darkness descends. In Chapter 2, Silla waits outside the stables, unsettled by Tolvik's execution and desperate to see her father. She briefly talks with the farrier Killian, but their moment is cut short when her father appears and urgently insists they leave Skarstad. On their walk home, he reveals they are heading to Kopa, a distant northern refuge, after receiving a secret message. Though wary of the journey, Silla agrees to travel first to Reykjord. Before they can depart, they're ambushed by armed strangers who call her father Thomas and claim the queen is searching for Silla. Her father denies it, but his reaction confirms the truth. A brutal fight erupts. Her father reveals deadly skills and kills several attackers before Silla is captured. She blacks out during the struggle, but awakens under a corpse, finds her father dying, and hears his final warnings: flee to Kopa and never let the queen take her. After his death, Silla escapes alone into the forest. In Chapter 3, Silla takes refuge in the outbuildings she once shared with her father, overwhelmed by grief and bloodied from the ambush. She recalls his final words and begins preparing to flee. Spurred by the mysterious blonde girl's voice, she searches beneath the mattresses and discovers a hidden pouch containing coins and a letter. The message directs her to seek refuge in Kopa and find a contact named Skegagrim at the house with blue shutters. Determined, Silla packs essentials: food, clothing, herbs, and sentimental items like her father's tunic and the heart-shaped rock he once gave her. She hides the old god's altar and readies herself to depart. Startled by a loud crack outside, she hides, then arms herself with a hammer instead of her dagger, recognizing the need for real protection. At sunset, Silla steps onto Vinder Road, leaving behind Skarstad and the life she once knew to face the unknown journey to Kopa. In Chapter 4, Silla travels swiftly through the twisted pine woods, determined to stay hidden after fleeing the warriors who killed her father. Traveling by night and sleeping by day to avoid detection, she navigates eerie forests filled with spirits, thieves, and wild creatures. Though haunted by grief, confusion, and unanswered questions, especially the revelation that Matthias was not her true father, and that Queen Sina is somehow hunting her, Silla presses on toward Reykjord and eventually Kopa. She clings to survival strategies taught by her father, marking trees to avoid spirit traps and offering food to the forest gods. Her memories intensify her sorrow, particularly a vivid recollection of her father comforting her years ago. When the crushing weight of pain, grief, and exhaustion overwhelms her, she finally takes a double dose of skjold leaves, her long-used medicine. It numbs her emotions and brings temporary peace, allowing her a moment's relief from the impossible burden she now carries alone. In Chapter 5, Silla injures her ankle and feels an unseen presence stalking her in the fog-drenched twisted pine woods. She narrowly avoids detection by a passing warband, overhearing their plan to visit Reykjord. Later, while resting, she's confronted by 4 armed men of the Battlethorns, who demand tribute for trespassing. When their leader threatens violence and invasion of her body, Silla defies him and crushes his hand with her hammer, only to be overpowered. As they begin stealing her supplies, a massive Grimwolf attacks, killing one warrior and scattering the rest. The beast spares Silla, vanishing into the forest. She gathers her belongings and flees, but soon realizes she's lost. Panicked and disoriented, she recalls her mother's teachings and spots migrating geese flying south. She follows their direction and regains Vinder Road. Exhausted and emotionally drained, Silla resolves she can't endure another night in the woods and must reach Reykjord before finding her way to Kopa. In Chapter 6, Skreda Holf monitors a suspected Galdra warrior in Reykjord's mead hall, waiting to capture him and his 3 companions. She senses the man's emotional turmoil and confirms his identity by manipulating his aura of fear and watching him react to passing Clarenar, elite emotionless warriors of the king. Just as she's about to spring her trap, a group of Clarenar enter the hall, unnerving the target and ruining her month-long plan. One of them publicly identifies her as Skreda Clever Tongue, blowing her cover and causing her target to flee. Infuriated, she confronts the Clarenar, who hand her a sealed scroll from Queen Sina. The letter orders Skreda to help locate a woman matching Silla's description: curly brown hair, a small scar by her eye, and bring her in at all costs. Though frustrated, Skreda sees a new opportunity and prepares to meet Commander Thord's men at the bridge, determined not to fail her queen. In Chapter 7, Silla trudges through the twisted pine woods, exhausted, hungry, and in pain, driven by her need to reach Reichfjord. After finding a stream to rest and clean up, she changes into fresh clothes, braids her hair, and rejoins the road, hoping to blend in among travelers. She meets a kind woman named Vigdis and her nephew Dali, who offer her a ride on their wagon. Along the way, they are stopped at a bridge by Clarenar and a red-haired warrior searching for a woman matching Silla's description. Silla narrowly avoids capture by hiding her features with mud and relying on Vigdis's lie that she is Una. Once past the checkpoint, they reach Reichfjord. Though grateful for their help, Silla realizes she must leave the city quickly as Clarenar are everywhere. Remembering her mission, she resolves to head north toward Kopa. The chapter ends with her spotting the Owl's Hollow Inn, a possible safe haven. In Chapter 8, Jonas Svik and Rainier Bjarg of the Blood Axe crew meet with Magnus Hansen, chief herdman of King Ivar in Reichfjord. Magnus presents them with a high-paying mission: investigate strange occurrences in Istra, where livestock and farmers have vanished amid reports of a pulsing white mist and signs of violence. A battalion of Clarenar sent earlier was found murdered and pinned to sacred pillars with the Volsic Sun Cross symbol scrawled in blood, suggesting possible rebel involvement, though it's unconfirmed. Magnus insists on secrecy and offers 10,000 solas, rhodium blades, and backup from Kopa's Clarenar garrison. Rey accepts the job, and the Blood Axe crew prepares to leave at dawn. Back at the meat hall, Rey briefs the team: Jonas, Ilias, Hekla, Gunnar, and Sigrun, who react with excitement. The chapter ends with camaraderie, jokes, and flirtation, as Jonas spends what might be his last night in comfort before setting out on a dangerous and mysterious journey. In Chapter 9, Jonas rides along the Road of Bones, focused on the promise of 10,000 solas from their current job. He dreams of restoring his family's longhouse and freeing himself and his brother Ilias from their past. A memory surfaces of his mother protecting him from their abusive father, reinforcing Jonas's lifelong sense of duty. As the Blood Axe crew travels, they banter, but Rey appears uncharacteristically off, perhaps affected by the mysterious murders they're investigating. Discussion shifts to the mist-shrouded killings and the odd clue of a sun cross drawn in blood, a symbol tied to the fallen Volsic royal family. Jonas reflects on the brutal execution of the Volsics by King Ivar, suggesting possible rebellion. The crew decides they need a rare creature guide held by their ousted former leader Kraki, but getting it won't be easy. As they camp, Jonas discovers someone hiding under the wagon blanket, presumably the woman they've been unknowingly transporting. In Chapter 10, Silla is discovered hiding in the Blood Axe crew's supply wagon and is violently dragged out by the golden-haired warrior Jonas. The crew's intimidating leader Rey interrogates her and orders a thorough search, confirming she isn't a thrall. Silla blurts out that she overheard their secret plans involving Kraki and offers to help retrieve the book they seek. Rey initially threatens to kill her to protect their mission, but hesitates after considering her potential usefulness. He decides to let her live for the night, binding her to a tree. As the crew sets up camp, Silla observes them, learning their names and dynamics. Hekla, a crew member with a metal hand, shows her kindness, loosening her ropes and giving her water and food. Silla chews on her medicinal leaves to calm herself and hallucinates a ghostly girl who questions her purpose and survival. Though still uncertain of her fate, Silla begins to plan how to prove her worth. In Chapter 11, Skreda interrogates Vigdis inside the Reichfjord Clarenar garrison. Using her Solacer abilities, Skreda confirms Vigdis knowingly sheltered the fugitive woman in the red cloak and helped her cross the bridge into Reichfjord. Skreda learns the girl hid in a wagon delivering chickens and winterwing eggs and escaped detection at the wharf. Under threat to her nephew, Vigdis reveals the girl traveled north on the Road of Bones but does not know her destination. Concluding Vigdis is no longer useful, and viewing her as responsible for the girl's escape, Skreda kills her to silence the matter. She instructs Commander Thord to keep the interrogation secret and assures him the Queen will reward the Clarener for their discretion. With confirmation that the target has fled north, Skreda resolves to pursue the girl herself and sets out along the Road of Bones. In Chapter 12, Silla experiences a recurring nightmare of hiding with a blonde girl as enemies close in. As always, the girl is ripped from her grasp and screams, a memory that haunts her even in sleep. She wakes screaming, startling Jonas of the Bloodaxe crew. Fearing she'll draw predators like Grimwolves, he calms her down and urges silence. Katrine, still shaken, apologizes and promises not to cause more trouble. At dawn, Rey debates whether to kill her or use her to extract information from Kraki. Although torn between loyalty to his crew and the potential value she offers, he ultimately spares her, deciding she might sway Kraki into revealing the location of a crucial book. Rey lays down strict rules for her survival, and Katrine agrees, offering to help the crew while asserting she won't seduce Kraki. Rey remains uneasy, sensing her presence will complicate things, but the decision is made. They travel together now. In Chapter 13, Silla wakes relieved that Rey spared her and sees a chance to secure a place with the Bloodaxe crew by proving her usefulness. Though warned against lying, Silla intends to keep her secrets. She washes at the stream and returns to camp where Jonas, distrustful, warns her not to interfere with their mission. Silla strives to gain favor by cooking a well-received rabbit stew, earning praise from the crew, especially Sigrun and Ilias. Later, she bonds with Hekla during a cold river bath, learning of Hekla's traumatic past and prosthetic arm. When asked about the bruises on her neck, Silla lies, letting Hekla believe she fled an abusive husband. Their return to camp brings momentary peace, until Rey confronts her. He reveals knowledge of 7 dead bodies near Skarstad, including one in Gunnel's colors, and questions her identity. Pressed by Rey, Silla is forced to consider revealing her true name. In Chapter 14, Silla is caught breaking Rey's rules, and must quickly fabricate a convincing lie to avoid being turned in to the king. She claims her name is Silla Nordvig and tells a false story about inheritance, an ambush, and her father's death. Rey presses her with difficult questions, but she holds firm, invoking a phrase that visibly unsettles him and ultimately spares her life. For now. However, the deception wounds her bond with Hekla. Around the fire, the crew begins to warm to her. Ilias and Gunnar tease her, calling her Hammerhand, and encouraging her to curse like a true member of the Bloodaxe crew. She shares fire whiskey and laughter, but remains cautious, especially with Jonas, who flirts and tests her resolve. Later, as she lies down to rest, a vision of the little blonde girl reminds her to stay alert. She must win the crew's trust without revealing her secrets, for her life still hangs in the balance. In Chapter 15, Jonas tends to his battered mother in a memory, begging her to seek a divorce from his abusive father. When she refuses, Jonas hardens his heart and vows never to be vulnerable to love. He wakes at camp, unsettled by the dream, and finds Silla bonding with Ilias over breakfast. Despite lingering mistrust, her skills in cooking begin to win the crew over. Later, struggling with grief and withdrawal from her skjold leaves, Silla slips into the forest to gather herbs and make an offering to the spirits. Jonas follows, warning her of the dangers. Their tense exchange escalates into a confrontation that turns unexpectedly intimate. Emotions clash, tempers flare, and unspoken desires surface. Though Jonas ultimately walks away, Silla is left rattled, not by fear, but by how deeply he affected her. For the first time in days, she realizes she hadn't thought of her addiction, or her grief, for nearly 20 minutes. In Chapter 16, Silla wakes uneasy, knowing she must face Rey, Hekla, and Jonas after recent tensions. She throws herself into cooking, quietly rebuilding her place with the Bloodaxe crew, though Rey remains cold and Jonas's presence unsettles her. When they set out along the Road of Bones, Rey binds Silla to the wagon again. The journey is abruptly interrupted when the Iron Ravens ambush them, demanding passage payment and knowledge of the wagon's cargo. Rey refuses, killing one man and triggering a brutal battle. The Bloodaxe crew proves highly skilled, cutting down attackers despite being outnumbered. While the crew is drawn away from the wagon, several Iron Ravens attempt to steal it. Silla crawls beneath the wagon to seize a fallen sword, but is discovered. She fights free and flees into the woods, only to be captured by 2 brothers. They reveal their true goal, using Silla to force access to the valuable blades hidden in the wagon. In Chapter 17, Silla is dragged back to the road by her captors only to witness the aftermath of a brutal battle. Rey refuses to negotiate for her return, but before her captors can react, Gunnar and Hekla kill them with deadly precision, Jonas's hand axe saving her life. Injured and shaken, Silla is treated by Sigrun and Hekla. Meanwhile, Rey and Jonas interrogate a surviving Iron Raven, Anders, using torture to extract the truth. Silla reveals they mentioned rhodium, confirming the ambush was planned. After Anders names the informant, Leif from Owl's Hollow, Rey executes him with chilling calm, never breaking eye contact with Silla. That night, haunted by Rey's violence and realizing she's not safe, Silla flees the camp. But her fear turns to resolve. Rey underestimated her. She returns, defiant. When she confronts him, declaring he cannot scare her off, Rey is left stunned. He finally understands. Silla may not fight with a sword, but she has a warrior spirit. In Chapter 18, Skreda rides the Road of Bones, exhausted and frustrated after failing to find the girl in the red cloak. Haunted by her past, she recalls her capture after gambling too boldly with her empathic gift as a solacer, and her imprisonment by the Clarenar. Facing execution, she made a desperate gamble. She offered her rare abilities to Queen Sina in exchange for freedom. Claiming she could sense and locate other Galdra, Skreda promised to deliver an Ashbringer within a day. The Queen accepted, with a deadly condition if she failed. Now free, Skreda stumbles upon the aftermath of the Iron Raven's ambush. Dozens of corpses strewn across the road. Observing signs of interrogation and a missing wagon, she notices a torn scrap of red cloak and a long curl of brown hair. Evidence that the girl was there and has joined a traveling group. Reinvigorated, Skreda vows to track her down before time runs out. In Chapter 19, Silla wakes with new determination after surviving the Iron Raven's attack. She apologizes to Hekla for her earlier deception, and the two reconcile. Hekla offers to teach Silla how to fight, warning that self-defense is necessary for survival. They bond over shared experiences of trauma and resilience, and Hekla vows to help persuade Rey to take Silla to Copa. Later, Silla is surprised to find her dagger returned freshly sharpened. Rey no longer binds her, signaling a shift in their dynamic. At evening meal, her headache flares, and she discovers her vial of skilled leaves is nearly empty, sending her into a panic. Rey sees the vial and warns her of the herb's dangers, sowing doubt about her father's intentions. Silla begins dagger training with Hekla, but is distracted by watching Jonas chop wood. Hekla teases her and warns Jonas is trouble with women, but encourages Silla to keep training, and to prove herself. In Chapter 20, Silla wrestles with insomnia, tormented by dreams of Jonas, her father's death, and unanswered questions about her parentage. Guilt gnaws at her, convinced she failed her father and haunted by his final moments. Even as she tries to focus on daily tasks, her grief and withdrawal overwhelm her. Seeking distraction, she follows Jonas into the woods under the pretense of protecting him. Their banter quickly escalates into a charged encounter, revealing their growing attraction. Just as tension peaks, Silla's emotional collapse breaks the moment. She admits she simply needed to escape her thoughts. Surprised by her vulnerability, Jonas softens. They walk in silence, and she thanks him for saving her from the Iron Ravens. He begins to see past his judgments, noting her resilience and dedication. When he checks her healing injuries, their closeness reignites until Ilias interrupts. The moment is broken, but a deeper bond has begun to form between them. In Chapter 21, the group travels uneventfully through the forest. Silla prepares dinner and trains in knife combat with Hekla. Her skills steadily improve, and Hekla shares how Rey's grandmother helped her obtain her prosthetic arm and custom clothing. During their lesson, Silla confesses her conflicted feelings toward Jonas and her struggle to gain Rey's trust. Hekla reveals she occasionally sleeps with Gunnar but doesn't form emotional attachments, prompting Silla to consider seeking her own distraction. Meanwhile, Jonas carves by the fire, internally battling his growing attraction to Silla. Despite his irritation and mistrust, he can't stop watching her. Rey, also concerned about Silla's secrets, orders Jonas to escort her at the next market stop in Svarti, warning him not to sleep with her. Jonas resents the command, but reluctantly agrees. Rey remains convinced Silla is hiding something, while Jonas suggests she may simply be intimidated. Both men continue to monitor her warily. In Chapter 22, Skreda inspects two burned corpses recently found in a hamlet, victims of the infamous killer known as the Slatrari. Pressed by a Clarnar captain to use her empathic abilities to identify the killer in the crowd, Skreda reluctantly agrees, more interested in locating the girl she's been tracking, Silla. While soothing the crowd's panic, she manipulates the situation to gather information on Silla instead of the murderer. Using her solacer gifts, she isolates a man whose surprise betrays knowledge. He confirms seeing a curly-haired woman in a red cloak traveling with warriors the day before. Skreda pays him and reports to the captain that the killer is not among them, relishing his frustration. The information confirms she is only a day behind Silla. However, with the city of Svardi ahead, Skreda worries that if she doesn't catch up soon, the girl may disappear into the crowds. In Chapter 23, Silla and the Blood Axe crew arrive in the city of Svardi. As the landscape shifts from forest to farmland, Silla grows desperate for skilled leaves, her supply nearly gone. Fear of being discovered by Queen Sina's mercenaries builds until they pass through the city gates without incident. In the bustling streets, Silla spots an apothecary and clings to the hope of replenishing her herbs. At the Boar's Head Inn, Rey assigns rooms, coldly informing her Magnus is paid, but she must choose a roommate or sleep in the barn. Hekla offers kindness, inviting Silla to room with her. Jonas informs Silla he's been ordered to escort her to the market. While preparing, Silla bathes and reflects on her father's death and the truth of his identity. A hallucinated girl confronts her with painful revelations. Matthias was really Tomas, and not her biological father. Silla locks away her grief and prepares to face the city. In Chapter 24, Silla and Jonas walk through Svardi, tense and wary of being recognized by the Queen's soldiers. Silla refuses to wear her red cloak and scans the crowd for danger while struggling with withdrawal from Skjold. When Jonas offers her his cloak, she finds his talisman, etched with his family's values, sparking a tense exchange that reveals his past. Their flirtation intensifies as Jonas teases Silla about her desires, but she pushes back, caught between attraction and frustration. When Silla rescues a puppy from an oncoming cart, she draws unwanted attention but regains her composure by focusing on the small joy. Clarnar soldiers pass close, heightening her anxiety, though they don't recognize her. Seeking distraction, she asks Jonas to share something real. He reveals that he only fights to earn coin and protect his brother Ilias, while Silla dreams of a peaceful life on a farm. As they reach the busy market, Silla is suddenly shoved to the ground. Panic surges as she fears discovery. In Chapter 25, Jonas attacks a man who shoves Silla in the market, unleashing a brutal beating until the man apologizes. As a crowd gathers, Silla hides, unnerved by the public spectacle. Jonas eventually finds her and shields her from view, unapologetic for his actions. Silla scolds him for the violence, but Jonas insists he was defending her honor. Their conversation turns flirtatious, with Jonas teasing and Silla amused by his many admirers in the market. They resume their errands, buying supplies for the crew and herbs for Silla. Jonas watches her interact with vendors, noticing how at ease she seems. When she enters an apothecary and takes a skilled leaf afterward, Jonas questions her. Silla insists the leaves help with headaches and denies Rey's claim that they're dangerous, trusting her father over him. Jonas warns her Rey doesn't lie, but Silla shuts down the conversation. They return to the inn in tense silence. In Chapter 26, Silla joins Hekla at the mead hall, but quickly feels exposed without her cloak. Tension spikes when 4 Clarnar warriors arrive. One returns her cloak, then unexpectedly sits beside her, forcing her to stay calm and listen. Their hushed conversation reveals critical news. The Slatrari killer has struck again, and the berskium mine in Reykjord has been destroyed, which could impact Queen Sina's power. Hekla returns with ale, and Silla attempts to act normal, masking her discomfort. Jonas later joins them, initiating a flirtatious under-the-table exchange that ends with Silla pranking him by sending a woman to flirt with him. Fleeing the scene, she runs into Rey, followed by Jonas, who returns her forgotten cloak and issues a veiled warning. The chapter ends with Silla feigning fatigue and withdrawing, aware she's pushed Jonas too far, and that retaliation is coming. The political tension and personal dynamics continue to escalate. In Chapter 27, Silla leaves Svardi with mixed emotions, relieved to escape danger, but worried about the approaching meeting with Kraki. Tasked with charming him for information, she plans to rely on Brensa and conversation, though the plan feels flimsy. That night, she helps Hekla with an herbal compress and finds comfort in being useful. Later, alone in the woods, Silla offers food to the gods and spirits, clinging to a fragile hope for guidance. Jonas interrupts her offering, sparking a charged exchange filled with flirtation, tension, and a deeper look into his past. As they walk together, Jonas reveals his dream of reclaiming his family's lost farm and how Rey recruited him and his brother Ilias into the Bloodaxe crew. Silla gains insight into his loyalty and pain. When she encourages him to pursue his dream, Jonas suddenly corners her against a tree, breath ragged, declaring, "I'm going after what I want." In chapter 28, Silla and Jonas finally give in to their growing attraction and share an intense, passionate kiss, with emotions flaring and restraint slipping. Their moment quickly escalates into a heated encounter until Jonas halts, sensing danger. A Skogungar, a monstrous forest creature, approaches, triggering Jonas's protective instincts. He arms himself, placing Silla behind him as the deformed, red-eyed beast charges. The fight is brutal. Jonas battles the unnatural creature with speed and precision, ultimately decapitating it after a vicious exchange. Silla is horrified by the gore and shaken by the attack. Jonas, reeking of rotten blood, pulls her back to camp, instructing her on the cover story they'll use. Though rattled, Silla thanks him and Jonas kisses her once more before leaving to clean up. As they return to the Bloodaxe camp under wary eyes, Silla is left questioning her survival once the crew inevitably parts ways and she must face the road of bones alone. In chapter 29, Skreda continues her hunt for Silla in the city of Svarti, frustrated by the difficulty of tracking her through crowded mead halls and markets. Knowing Silla is central to Queen Sina's secret plans, Skreda is determined to uncover the identities and intentions of the warriors traveling with her. At the Boar's Head Tavern, a Clarenar warrior recognizes Silla and offers information, for a price. Skreda uses her unique ability to manipulate emotional threads, seizing control of the man's free will through a rare golden filament linked to Berskium. Under her influence, the Clarenar reveals that Silla traveled with a woman with a prosthetic arm and two blonde men, one loud and possibly heading toward Kiv to retrieve a book from Kraki. Realizing they left 2 days ago and might be detouring to Kiv, Skreda decides not to follow directly. Instead, she plans to intercept them at the junction where the Kiv Road rejoins the Road of Bones. In chapter 30, Jonas wrestles with intense feelings for Silla, realizing her sincerity and optimism are what disarm him. Meanwhile, Rey remains suspicious of her, particularly as they prepare for a dangerous journey to meet Kraki. Concerned about Jonas's growing affection, Rey decides he and Silla will go alone to gain Kraki's trust more easily. Silla, caught off guard, learns she must ride with Rey, sharing a horse for days despite their tension. As they travel the treacherous Scala Ridge, Rey reveals Kraki was once Bloodaxe crew's leader, but was ousted after serious misjudgments led to injuries, including Ilias nearly dying. Rey admits Kraki bears a grudge. Silla insists she can help with more than just being bait. Their mutual contempt escalates into a heated psychological exchange where Silla accuses Rey of using anger as armor for past pain. Rey denies it, but reacts sharply, confirming her words struck true. Their uneasy alliance continues forward. In chapter 31, Silla and Rey journey west through the foothills of the Sleeping Dragons, riding late into the alpine wilderness. Despite their silence, Silla tries to engage Rey, who remains cold and distant. When she finds a stream to wash up, she's ambushed by a vampiruter, an antlered vampire deer. Paralyzed by fear, she's saved at the last moment by Rey's axe. Furious, Silla learns Rey had observed the threat to test her abilities. Overcome with rage, Silla shoves Rey, only to release an unknown power that flings him across the clearing. Rey laughs, surprising Silla with unexpected warmth. Later, as they rest, Silla uses the addictive skjold leaves again, ignoring Rey's warnings. Their conversation turns personal when Rey reveals his brother died from the same addiction. The moment casts doubt over Silla's choices. As she drifts into sleep, haunted by a vision of her younger self, her denial begins to crack. In chapter 32, tension runs high between Silla and Rey after the vampire deer attack and Silla's continued use of the skjold leaves. As they ascend toward the mountain Fafnir, Silla is briefly awed by the alpine beauty, but Rey remains tense, warning her about Kraki's character. Upon arrival in the mountain village of Kiv, they meet Kraki, Rey's gruff, antagonistic former mentor, who is immediately hostile and lecherous. Silla quickly adapts, using charm and wit to win Kraki's favor and gain them entrance into his home. Rey, meanwhile, scans the cabin for the hidden book Creatures of Isildur, which Kraki claims has been destroyed. He offers instead to share its contents, if asked by the right person. When Kraki's hostility escalates, Silla volunteers to cook dinner, diffusing the tension. Her quick thinking reinforces her value in the mission, while Rey silently acknowledges that he couldn't have handled the volatile situation without her. In Chapter 33, Silla attempts to extract information from Kraki by engaging him in conversation and plying him with whiskey, hoping to uncover details about the creature that attacked the Bloodaxe crew. When her charm and subtle tactics fail, Kraki proposes a game of truth or drink row, refusing to play with Rey and demanding to play with Silla instead. Despite Rey's protests, Silla agrees and endures a series of invasive questions. As Rey questions Kraki about a creature cloaked in pulsing mist, Kraki suggests the Draugr may be involved but denies they would kill in homes. The tension between Kraki and Rey intensifies, especially after Kraki mocks Silla and pushes into painful memories about her father's death. Silla tries to maintain control, but the alcohol overwhelms her. Eventually, Rey ends the game and pulls her outside. After vomiting, Silla asks if she was helpful, and Rey gently assures her she did well before she passes out. In Chapter 34, Jonas broods alone in the mead hall on the eve of Longest Day, unable to enjoy the festivities as thoughts of Silla consume him. Though surrounded by revelry, he's haunted by memories of their night together and overwhelmed by feelings he cannot reconcile. Determined to refocus on his future, his farm, his brother Ilias, and reclaiming his dignity, Jonas is abruptly provoked when another man spills ale on him. Consumed by rage and a desperate need for control, he attacks the man viciously in front of the entire hall, ignoring the consequences until Ilias intervenes to pull him off. Bloodied and unrepentant, Jonas drinks deeply and concludes that betting a woman will restore his balance. Spotting a flirtatious, raven-haired woman across the room, the same one he'd ignored earlier, he finally acknowledges her and beckons her over, convinced it will help him erase the hold Silla has on him. In Chapter 35, Rey and Silla ride away from Kiv toward Ver, but tension brews as Rey reflects on her lies, especially about her father's death. Though she proved useful in getting information from Kraki, he cannot trust someone who lies. When Silla tries to negotiate her way into the Bloodaxe crew and asks Rey to take her to Copa, he refuses and reveals he stole creatures of Isildur from Kraki. Their argument is cut short when a red-haired female warrior ambushes them, severely wounding Rey and nearly killing him. Overwhelmed by memories and pain, Rey is saved at the last moment by Silla, who knocks the warrior unconscious. Rey finishes the job by pushing the assassin off the cliff, but Silla has overheard Rey's real name, Reynir Galtung, and uses it to force a deal. She'll keep it secret if he takes her to Copa. Bound by oath, Rey reluctantly agrees, knowing it may cost him. In Chapter 36, Silla and Rey reach Ver, where the Longest Day celebrations are underway. Rey honors his oath to take her to Copa, but tension lingers between them. Silla reunites with Hekla and prepares for the feast, wearing a lavender dress that earns her compliments and a teasing nickname, Sunshine. At the gathering, the Bloodaxe crew jokes about her drinking contest with Kraki and the knife-training vampire deer, while Jonas avoids her entirely, stirring unease in her heart. Amid the festivities, Silla meets a handsome man named Asger, a blacksmith working for Jarl Håkon, who flirts with her and suggests seeing her again. Though wary, Silla enjoys the rare moment of lightness and charm. As the night continues, laughter and warmth fill the hall, and Silla momentarily forgets the danger stalking her. She and Hekla slip away into the joyous streets, even as secrets and unspoken threats still loom in the shadows. In Chapter 37, Hekla takes Silla into the Longest Day festivities where they braid flowers, drink ale, and join the crowds dancing around bonfires in Ver. Silla admits she wants a distraction and a kind, uncomplicated man trying to move past her feelings for Jonas. At the bonfire, she makes a small offering and silently prays to reach Copa safely. She witnesses the release of Fleeta, glowing insects symbolizing hope and rebirth, which deeply moves her and marks a turning point in how she sees her life beyond mere survival. Later, back at the Wolf's Den courtyard, Silla sees Jonas with another woman, leaving her hurt and humiliated. She separates from Hekla and accepts Asger's attention, seeking comfort and affirmation. Though Asger is kind and direct, Silla realizes she feels no true spark with him. As he tries to kiss her in a dark corridor, Jonas intervenes and orders Asger to leave, abruptly ending the encounter. In chapter 38, Asger attempts to kiss Silla, but Jonas interrupts, demanding he leave. A confrontation escalates until Silla intervenes and asks Asger to go, choosing to stay and speak with Jonas. They argue, and Jonas admits he's been unable to stop thinking about her, revealing his feelings and jealousy. Silla challenges his earlier behavior, ignoring and taunting her, while Jonas confesses he couldn't be with another woman because of how deeply he wants her. Their heated emotions erupt into a passionate encounter, where they finally give in to their mutual desire. For the first time, Silla chooses intimacy and vulnerability, allowing herself to fully experience being with someone she wants. Jonas is possessive but tender, and the moment is intense and deeply personal for them both. Their connection is cemented physically and emotionally as they cross a line neither can take back, changing the nature of their relationship moving forward. In chapter 39, Jonas and Silla lie together after a night of intimacy. Though Jonas tries to remind himself of his responsibilities, his land, his mission, he can't ignore the warmth he feels toward her. They talk, tracing each other's scars, sharing fragments of their pasts. Silla learns Jonas was hurt protecting his mother from his father. When she asks if that history is tied to why he and Ilias were denied land rights, he confirms, but avoids going deeper. Despite trying to stay detached, Jonas feels growing trust and possessiveness. They agree to keep their relationship a secret from Rey, who had forbidden Jonas from pursuing her. They joke about signals to sneak away, but Silla insists Jonas treat her kindly around others. He agrees not to ignore her again, though he warns it will be hard to hide his desire. After she leaves, Silla returns to her room, only to be met by Hekla, who immediately suspects what transpired. In chapter 40, Skreda dreams of her imprisoned twin, Ilka, confronting her for betraying their kind. Ilka calls Skreda a coward and a traitor, a condemnation that haunts Skreda even after she wakes on a cliffside ledge. Injured but alive after her failed ambush on Rey and Silla, Skreda begins the grueling climb back up Scala Ridge. She recalls how she overpowered Rey by exploiting his sorrow and nearly defeated him, until Silla intervened. Fueled by rage and desperation to correct her failure, Skreda scales the fjord using her axe and Hevret to ascend the cliff. Once at the top, she finds Rey's broken shield and vows to learn the identity of the group protecting Silla. Her horse returns and she rides north along the Road of Bones, determined to finish her mission. With Ilka's braid in her pocket and the girl still alive, Skreda sets off to strike before the queen's favor turns against her. In chapter 41, Silla awakens in Ver, her thoughts lingering on the night with Jonas. During the wagon ride, she discovers 3 books Rey has given her. One revealing the truth about Skjold, the addictive herb she's relied on for years. Reading that it causes the very headaches she thought it cured and may cause hallucinations, she realizes her entire identity and the phantom girl who's guided her might be products of the leaves. Overwhelmed, Silla spirals into grief and rage at her father's betrayal. Later at camp, she trains with Hekla and receives harsh criticism from Rey. His involvement in her training escalates, and through repeated drills, she begins improving. When he challenges her directly, physical contact with him triggers a traumatic flashback to Skreda's attack. Panicking, Silla claws Rey's arm and flees. The revelation about the leaves and the resurfacing trauma push her further toward unraveling, as trust and identity continue to erode. In chapter 42, Silla retreats to the woods, overwhelmed by grief, guilt, and identity confusion. She confides in Hekla about her father and the lasting trauma from the attack, revealing how Rey's touch triggered a panic response. Hekla reassures her, calling her brave and reminding her she's honoring her father's dream. After Hekla leaves, Silla battles her addiction to Skjold, but ultimately gives in and chews a leaf, comforted by the hallucinated blonde girl who warns her to stay vigilant and not trust too easily. Jonas then arrives, and their growing intimacy resumes. As they make love in the clearing, Silla is struck by a troubling realization. Jonas's touch numbs her pain the same way the leaves do. Though she longs to forget, she's beginning to understand that both her dependence on the herb and her relationship with Jonas may be distractions from confronting deeper emotional wounds, ones she's still struggling to face. In chapter 43, Silla rides along the Black Sand coast with the Blood Axe crew, attempting to distract herself by reading A Brief History of Isildur. The book's omissions about Urkin legends intrigue her, especially its focus on the Volsic line and female succession. Despite her efforts, she remains consumed by thoughts of the skjold leaves, particularly the warning on page 233 of Herbs of Isildur. Though she tries repeatedly to quit, her withdrawals overwhelm her and she relapses nightly, all while hiding her struggle. Meanwhile, Rey studies reports of the pulsing mist and claw marks, troubled by their mystery and the possibility of an unknown threat. Though he tries to focus, his attention keeps returning to Silla. Despite wanting to resent her for manipulating him, Rey finds himself concerned for her and stirred by her laughter. Frustrated by his distraction and unease, Rey storms off into the woods, determined to refocus before the mission turns deadly. In Chapter 44, Silla is momentarily content at camp, hiding her relationship with Jonas and gratefully accepting a crushed leaf pouch from Sigrun. While fetching water, Silla falls down a slope and is attacked by a towering vampire deer. Acting on instinct, she kills it with her dagger but is too weak to retrieve the blade. A second deer appears, but Rey kills it with a hevret and helps calm her trembling body. In an unexpected act of trust, Silla gives Rey her vial of skjold and asks him to keep it, her first real step toward letting go of the addictive leaves. Rey promises not to return it. That night, Silla cooks for the crew but is detached, her body already suffering the effects of withdrawal. Feverish and racked with pain, she spirals into despair, haunted by thoughts of failure, addiction, and the unknown. Still, she clings to the hope that giving up the leaves might finally set her free. In Chapter 45, Skreda arrives in Ver, determined to find Silla before she disappears into either Cunnafjord or Kopa. Posing as a traveler, she presents Rey's broken shield to the barkeep, who directs her to Asger, a well-traveled man in the mead hall. When Asger identifies the sigil as belonging to the Bloodaxe crew, Skreda is stunned. Silla is traveling with mercenaries. Sensing Asger's jealousy, Skreda manipulates him into revealing more. The crew had recently passed through for Longest Day festivities, and Silla had said she was heading to Kopa. Though uncertain if the mercenaries are also bound for Kopa, Skreda is now armed with a crucial lead. Just as she prepares to follow, a Clernarch Captain delivers a summons from Queen Sina, instructing her to report to Commander Laxa in Scooter. Furious at being outranked, Skreda suppresses her rage and conceals her fury, vowing to find Silla and regain her queen's favor. In Chapter 46, the Bloodaxe crew travels north on the Road of Bones while Silla lies unconscious in the wagon, burning with fever. Jonas grows increasingly distressed, suspecting her illness is linked to her encounter with the vampire deer, an incident Rey refuses to fully explain. Despite trying to downplay his feelings, Jonas finds himself imagining a future with Silla on a farmstead alongside his brother Ilias. Meanwhile, Ilias questions whether a peaceful life can compare to the thrill of traveling with the crew, sowing quiet tension between the brothers. Their conversation is interrupted by two riders who warn them the Slatrari has struck again, burning 2 more victims beyond recognition. As the riders disappear, the crew is shaken. Jonas notices Sigrun touch her old burn scars, pondering their painful origin, but his concern quickly returns to Silla, gripped by fear that she might not survive, even as danger looms ever closer on the road ahead. In Chapter 47, Silla endures disturbing dreams while unconscious, visions of her dying father, dark power spilling from her hands, and her recurring dream of a blonde girl, now revealed as her sister. Upon waking, Silla realizes 2 truths. The girl is her sister, and that sister is alive somewhere in Isildur. She has survived 2 days of fever and withdrawal from the skjold leaves. The Bloodaxe crew had believed she was poisoned or bitten, unaware of her addiction. She rejoins the camp, recovering strength, and shares a warm reunion with Jonas, Hekla, and the others. Determined to stay clean, Silla channels her energy into training with Hekla and Rey, exchanging banter and showing growth in confidence and skill. That night, as she steps away from the fire to get her cloak, a hand clamps over her mouth and an arm traps her. A stranger seizes her from behind, warning her not to scream. In Chapter 48, Silla awakens fully recovered, and she and Jonas share an intimate night in his tent. In the afterglow, both open up about their darkest memories. Jonas confesses to killing his abusive father after the man murdered his mother, an act that led to the loss of their family land and forced Jonas and Ilias to start over with the Bloodaxe crew. Silla in turn reveals that her mother was executed by the Clernarch, falsely accused of being a Galdra. Silla blames herself for forgetting an herb, leaving her mother vulnerable to the authorities. Both bond deeply over their shared guilt and loss. Jonas gives her a handmade wooden talisman, a symbol of connection and care, and expresses hope for a future visit to Kopa. Just as their moment of peace settles, Gunnar's voice cries out, "An attack is imminent." The chapter ends with danger closing in on the camp once more. In Chapter 49, the Blood Axe crew's camp is attacked by monstrous fanged wolf spiders. Jonas rushes to join the fight while Silla is told to stay hidden. But as the battle erupts, white light flares from Silla's forearms, magic she can no longer deny. The leaves had suppressed her Kjarna, revealing that she is Galdra. One of the beasts crashes into her tent and Silla fights it off with her dagger, injuring it until Rey delivers the killing blow. After the attack, Silla conceals her light with gloves and cloak, aware it draws danger. Around the fire, Rey confronts Jonas for breaking orders by sleeping with Silla. Jonas confesses publicly, and the two men fight to settle it. Silla endures mockery from the crew, but finds quiet support from Hekla and Ilias. The next morning, she apologizes to Rey, who warns her that dishonesty threatens the crew. They agree to travel to Scooter for wagon repairs. In Chapter 50, the Blood Axe crew arrives in Scooter, a bustling highland town where Silla quickly senses danger. She spots Skreda, the red-haired assassin Rey had once pushed off a ridge, alive and approaching. To protect the crew, Silla flees through narrow alleys, her latent magic flaring again. Skreda pursues her, and Silla hides inside the abandoned temple of Sunvald, eventually descending into its crypt. There, she discovers an ossuary, a chamber built from bones, and is cornered by Skreda, who reveals she is also Galdra, a solacer who manipulates emotions and memories. Skreda tempts Silla to surrender, claiming knowledge of Silla's sister and her true name, Asa Volsic, confirming Silla is royal blood. When Skreda invades her mind, Silla recalls her father calling her Isa. Refusing to be captured, she blocks the crypt tunnel with rubble and climbs through a vent shaft to escape. As she emerges, Jonas is waiting, shocked to find her covered in dust and panic. In Chapter 51, Jonas finds Silla emerging from the crypt glowing with white light. Though shocked, he shields her from patrolling Clarnar, pretending she's his lover. Once safe, she begs him to flee Scooter. Jonas rides with her to Black Rock, avoiding guards as they escape the city. He recalls seeing her chased by a red-haired warrior and realizing she's Galdra. At a riverside camp, Silla bathes frantically to scrub away the crypt's filth. She admits to glowing unpredictably and reveals she stopped taking sedative leaves, giving her vial to Rey. Jonas feels betrayed by her lies, especially the false land dispute, but remains conflicted. Silla confesses she feared judgment and didn't want to endanger him. She now wants to warn the Blood Axe crew about the Clarnar. Jonas advises secrecy until Copa, where she hopes to find help. Despite his anger, he resolves to protect her and take control of their next steps together. In Chapter 52, Skreda waits at the Scooter garrison, stewing in failure after losing Isa Volsic once again. Commander Laxa arrives and informs her that the girl has escaped despite thorough searches. Skreda conceals the truth of her conversation with Isa, manipulating Laxa with her solacer magic. However, Laxa reveals that Queen Sina has removed Skreda from the mission, deeming her a failure, and presents a letter ordering her execution if she fails again. Enraged and desperate, Skreda uses her magic to control two guards, forcing them to kill each other. She then traps Laxa, confirms the Queen's broader plan to intercept Isa using more warriors and wasps, and decides she alone must deliver Isa to the Queen. Drawing on Ashbringer magic she inherited from her twin sister, she immolates Laxa alive and burns the garrison. As Clarnar warriors fall around her, Skreda walks out through the fire, resolved to prove her worth. In Chapter 53, Silla reflects on her deepening connection with Jonas while hiding her true identity as Isa Volsic. She considers telling him the truth, but fears the danger it brings. Knowing her presence endangers the Blood Axe crew, she decides to warn Rey. When she confesses Clarnar warriors are hunting her, Rey realizes she is Galdra and considers releasing himself from his oath, but chooses to honor it instead. Rey calls a crew meeting, and Silla's secret is revealed. Despite initial tension, the crew unanimously agrees to protect her. Jonas is furious she confided in Rey first, suspecting Rey's feelings for her. Confronting Silla privately, Jonas demands she avoid Rey and speak through him only, revealing controlling behavior. Though Silla protests, he asserts dominance, claiming her with a public kiss, while Rey watches disapprovingly. The chapter ends with tension rising between Jonas and Rey, and Silla caught in the middle, her future and freedom more uncertain than ever. In Chapter 54, the Blood Axe crew travels toward the northern junction when they are ambushed by mercenaries searching for Silla on the Queen's orders. Rey orders Silla to hide in the woods, but she is discovered by additional mercenaries using trained wasps to track her. Silla kills a man to escape and runs back toward the road, drawing a larger force onto the crew. A brutal battle follows, with the Bloodaxe crew forming a shield wall and fighting off overwhelming numbers. Silla is captured again, identified as Isa Volsic, and nearly taken, but she breaks free and is rescued by Jonas. The crew ultimately survives the fight, but Ilias is mortally wounded. Jonas stays with his brother as Ilias dies, comforting him with memories of home. After the battle, the crew realizes the queen has been hunting Silla all along. Sigrun rides away in grief, and Silla is consumed by guilt as she holds Jonas while he finally breaks down. In Chapter 55, the Bloodaxe crew makes camp after the battle, carrying Ilias's body in the wagon. Jonas is numb with grief and withdraws into the woods, unable to decide how his brother should be laid to rest. Silla is overwhelmed by guilt and considers leaving to spare the crew further danger, but she forces herself to stay and help. She suppresses cravings for the leaves and works to support the others, setting up camp and tending to tasks despite the blood and loss surrounding her. Rey collapses from a serious leg wound sustained in the fight, and Silla stitches it under Hekla's direction. Afterward, Rey confronts Silla privately, making it clear that Ilias's death weighs heavily on him and that he blames her for the violence brought upon the crew. He states that only his oath keeps him from killing her, and admits he looks forward to the day she leaves. Silla accepts his anger in silence and returns to her duties, burdened by blame. In Chapter 56, Jonas isolates himself in the woods, devastated by Ilias's death. He replays the fatal moment in his mind, blaming himself for abandoning his brother in battle to save Silla. His grief curdles into rage when he realizes the queen herself has been hunting. Silla, Isa Volsic, whom he believed dead. Discovering the talisman he once gave her discarded, Jonas believes she used him and vows vengeance. He returns to camp, buries Ilias the next morning, and rejects mourning time, choosing to honor his brother by completing the mission. Meanwhile, Rey leads the rest of the crew away, haunted by guilt for failing to question Silla's story and for leading them into battle without full knowledge of the enemy. As Jonas lingers behind with Silla, he hides his fury under a mask of tenderness but silently plots revenge. Both men are consumed by grief, but their paths diverge, Rey with guilt, Jonas with vengeance. In Chapter 57, Silla mourns Ilias alongside Jonas at his burial site, overwhelmed with guilt and grief. She cannot bring herself to accept her identity as Isa Volsic, clinging to denial for emotional survival. After attempting to fetch water, she unknowingly drinks from a water skin drugged with Rey's leaves. The drug takes effect quickly, rendering her euphoric and disoriented. Jonas, secretly filled with rage and vengeance, reveals he overheard her true name and plans to trade her to the Clarenar. As Silla slips in and out of lucidity, Jonas alternates between bitter sorrow over Ilias's death and a cold, calculated plan to use Silla's capture to reclaim his family's land and restore his honor. He repeatedly doses her with leaves to keep her compliant and leads her down the Black Road toward Copa, determined to fulfill what he now sees as justice, avenging Ilias by delivering Isa to the queen, regardless of Silla's betrayal or suffering. In Chapter 58, Silla awakens in a prison cell inside a Clarenar outpost on the edge of Copa, betrayed by Jonas, who drugged and delivered her. Disoriented and heartbroken, she grieves his betrayal and her own misjudgments, realizing she's now fully in the queen's grasp. She sees a vision of her younger sister Saga, who inspires her to reclaim purpose and survive. Refusing food and water, Silla demands to see Jonas and warns the guards of her withdrawal from skilled leaves, hoping to manipulate them through fear of her deteriorating condition. Meanwhile, Skreda arrives at Copa, furious she was beaten to Isa's capture. Using her mind magic, she compels a Clarenar guard to let her into the sealed city and reveal Isa's location. She discovers the eastern garrison is too heavily guarded to attack directly and withdraws to plan her next move. Silla, sick and barely conscious, clings to thoughts of Saga to survive. In Chapter 59, Silla awakens in her prison cell to find Jonas waiting outside. He brings her food, but their exchange turns bitter as she confronts him for drugging and betraying her. Jonas shows no remorse, claiming her capture will restore his family's lands and honor. Silla appeals to his emotions and memories of Ilias, but Jonas has hardened completely, blaming her for his brother's death. He vows not to return and leaves her alone. Afterwards, Silla meets another prisoner, Meta, who has been held for 4 weeks without trial, falsely accused of witchcraft. Meta reveals that many others, mostly girls and a few men, have passed through the cells and never returned. The Clarenar, she explains, have quotas to meet and arrest indiscriminately. Horrified, Silla realizes innocent people are being executed. Determined to survive and bring justice, she vows to escape and make the Clarenar pay for every stolen life. A quiet bond begins forming between Silla and Meta. In Chapter 60, Rey arrives at Copa 3 days after Ilias's burial, tormented by Silla and Jonas's unexplained absence. Suspecting betrayal, he discovers the city gates are mysteriously shut under orders from above Jarl Håkon, possibly the king, Queen Sina, or Magnus Hearteater. A merchant mentions a red-haired woman being let in, which heightens Rey's alarm. Knowing hidden routes from childhood, Rey finds a secret tunnel but is ambushed by Clarenar guards. He kills one and emerges into a forest only to face 23 more warriors. When ordered to surrender, Rey unleashes his smoke-based Galder, slaughtering them all except their captain. Interrogating him, Rey learns Silla is imprisoned and will be transported to Sunavik under Commander Valf's orders. Furious and driven by guilt, Rey kills the captain after getting the information he needs. Now aware of Silla's location, he heads for the eastern garrison, determined to rescue her before it's too late. In Chapter 61, Silla is summoned from her prison cell, dressed in a revealing red gown, and brought to Commander Valf's quarters. Inside, Valf uses food laced with a catalyst leaf to force her dormant Galder to surface, revealing glowing light beneath her skin. As Silla's magic flares, Valf becomes increasingly aggressive, taunting her about her identity, her abilities, and his connections to Queen Sina and Maester Alfson in Sunavik. When he attempts to overpower and assault her, Silla draws on her training with Hekla and Rey to resist. In a violent struggle, she stabs, kicks, and finally kills Valf by smashing a stone bust over his head. Hearing guards outside, she grabs his cloak and escapes through the window. She injures herself in the fall, but flees into the streets of Copa. Pursued and bleeding, she repeats her only hope, finds Skegagrim's house with blue shutters near the Dragon's Lair Inn. In Chapter 62, Silla flees through the streets of Copa, hiding her glowing arms beneath a cloak as her uncontrollable Galder pulses within her. A stranger gives her directions to the Dragon's Lair Inn, and she finds the blue-shuttered house beside it, the safe house promised to her. But when she knocks, Skreda answers. Dragged inside and held at knife point, Silla learns Skreda killed Skegagrim and waited to capture her. Skreda reveals she intends to steal Silla's Galder using Mikrob, a liquid containing microscopic organisms. When Silla resists, her rage unleashes her magic and she attacks. The women fight brutally until Silla kills Skreda with her own blade. Though offered the chance to leave Skreda to die alone, Silla shows mercy, honoring her death with a warrior's farewell. Exhausted and reeling from betrayal and loss, Silla exits the house, only to be spotted by a patrol of Clarenar, her escape once again in jeopardy. In Chapter 63, Silla flees from the Clarenar through the streets of Copa and escapes into the forest only to be tackled and hidden by Rey. He shelters her beneath his cloak as the Clarenar search nearby, and she realizes he came back for her. After the soldiers pass, Rey wraps her in his cloak, carries her through the woods, and leads her out of the city. They pass a massacre site left by the Slatrari before escaping through a hidden tunnel. Rey comforts Silla as she confesses to killing both Commander Valf and Skreda. Despite her trauma, he assures her she is now crew and promises to bring her to safety in Kalasgarda. As they travel, Silla opens up about her fears, and Rey admits regret over his harsh words. Trust begins to form between them. Though uncertain about her future, Silla finds hope in Rey's support and hums once more. Epilogue: Saga Volsik is summoned from her chambers in Askaborg Castle to meet Queen Sina after weeks of isolation. Sina reprimands Saga for hiding, orders her to resume public duties, and assigns her to help foster relations with the Zagadkian delegation to secure grain. She further decrees that Saga must undergo a religious letting to Ursur and announces Saga's future betrothal to Prince Bjorn. Overwhelmed and trapped, Saga escapes into Askaborg's hidden passages to regain control. While hiding, she overhears Queen Sina and Meister Alfson discussing the failed capture of Isa Volsik, revealing that Isa escaped custody, killed Commander Valf, and may be aided by the Slatrari. The Queen confirms Isa is alive and orders her recapture. Realizing her sister survived, Saga's despair transforms into resolve. She decides she will find Issa, no matter the cost.